Hey, my name's Caleb Turner. I'm 25 and I work as an IT specialist at a small software firm right in the heart of Denver. It's not the most glamorous job, mostly fixing bugs, troubleshooting servers, and dealing with endless tickets from frustrated users, but it pays the bills and keeps me busy. I live in a modest one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts, the kind with thin walls and a view of the Rockies on a clear day. Life's been pretty routine since college. Work, gym a couple times a week, maybe grab a beer with coworkers on Fridays. No drama, no big adventures. At least that's how it was until that morning in May. The air had that crisp edge to it, not quite summer yet, with the light sun filtering through the downtown buildings. I was wheeling my old bike out of the company garage, my mind already wandering to what I'd grab for lunch. Maybe that food truck with the killer burritos. The office was buzzing as usual, people streaming in with their coffee cups and laptops, the hum of the city starting its daily grind. I adjusted my backpack, ready to pedal home after a long week of deadlines that had me pulling late nights. That's when I saw her. Standing right by the entrance gate amid the flow of pedestrians was Sophie. My heart slammed to a stop. It had been 3 years, but she looked almost exactly the same. Blonde hair cascading softly over her shoulders, petite frame in a familiar white dress, clutching her bag like she was waiting for someone. Or maybe just lost in a city she used to know so well. But there was something different in her eyes now. A weariness that hadn't been there before. A subtle sadness that made her seem older, more fragile. I froze, bike handle gripped too tight. Memories flooded back uninvited. The way we'd met in college, those lazy afternoons wandering Denver's streets hand in hand, talking about dreams and futures that felt unbreakable. She'd been my everything back then, the girl who made me believe in forever. But then Nathan came along. He was everything I wasn't. Successful job at a big firm, family money, that effortless charm. Sophie left without a fight, just a quiet, "I'm sorry, Caleb. I've met someone else." It gutted me, left me hollow for months. Friends said move on, and I tried. Dates here and there, focusing on work. But seeing her now, it all rushed back like a punch to the chest. I considered ducking behind a nearby tree, pretending I hadn't seen her. My phone was in my pocket. I could fake a call and slip away. But before I could move, another figure appeared from the office doors. Olivia, my boss. At 35, she was the epitome of sharp professionalism. Always in tailored outfits, her brown eyes quick and perceptive, with a smile that could disarm or command depending on the situation. She ran our team with a firm but fair hand, the kind of leader everyone respected but kept a respectful distance from. I'd always admired her but never crossed that line. She was my superior, after all. She was unlocking her car nearby when she glanced over, her brow furrowing at my expression. "Caleb? You look like you've just seen a ghost. Everything okay?" I swallowed hard, glancing back at Sophie, who was still scanning the crowd. In a panic, I blurted out, "Boss, could you help me with something? It's kind of weird." She tilted her head, curious. "Depends. What's up?" I pointed subtly towards Sophie. "That's my ex. From college. I don't know how to face her right now. Could you pretend to be my girlfriend? Just for a minute?" Olivia paused, her keys dangling midair. For a split second, surprise flickered across her face, but then her lips curved into a mischievous smile. "You sure about this?" "Once I commit to a role, I don't do half measures." "I just don't want to look pathetic," I muttered, my face heating up. "Please?" She chuckled softly. "All right, boyfriend. Link arms with me." Before I could second guess, her arm slipped through mine and we started walking toward the gate. My pulse raced, but there was something steadying about her presence. The faint scent of her perfume, the confident click of her heels on the pavement. As we approached, Sophie's eyes landed on us, widening slightly. "Hey, Sophie," I said, forcing a casual smile, my hand instinctively tightening on Olivia's arm. "Long time no see, this is Olivia, my girlfriend." Sophie blinked, her gaze darting between us. There was a flicker of confusion, then something deeper. Regret, maybe? "Oh, wow, that's unexpected. Hi, Olivia, nice to meet you." Her voice was soft, but I caught the tremor in it. Olivia extended her hand with effortless grace. Likewise, Caleb's told me a bit about you. Small world, running into old friends like this? Yeah, Sophie replied, her smile strained. We're having a class reunion this Saturday. You should come, Caleb. Everyone's asking about you. I'll think about it, I said, trying to sound nonchalant. Olivia squeezed my arm gently, like a silent boost of courage. Sophie nodded, her eyes glistening just a bit. Well, I should go. Nice seeing you both. Have a good day. She turned quickly, heading toward a waiting cab, her shoulders hunched. I exhaled sharply as she disappeared into the traffic. Thank you, I said to Olivia, pulling my arm free, my cheeks burning. That was intense. She grinned, stepping back, but not before leaning in close. You did great, Caleb. A little awkward, but authentic. Then, unexpectedly, she pressed a quick kiss to my cheek. Soft, fleeting, but enough to send a jolt through me. Consider that your bonus for bravery. I stood there, stunned, touching the spot where her lips had been, my face flushing hotter than the Colorado sun. As she walked back into the building, waving over her shoulder, I watched her go, the boundary between boss and something more, feeling thinner than ever. What had I just started? That evening, after the chaos at the office gate, I headed back to my apartment in a daze. The bike ride home blurred by, Denver's streets alive with the after-work rush, the fading sun casting long shadows over the sidewalks. My cheek still tingled where Olivia had kissed it, a quick peck that felt anything but casual. I replayed the moment over and over, her smile, the warmth in her voice, the way she'd called it a bonus for bravery. What was that? Professional courtesy or something more? I shook my head, trying to dismiss it. She was my boss, for God's sake. Getting tangled in that would be a disaster. My place was the usual mess. A stack of unopened mail on the kitchen counter, a half-eaten pizza box from last night, and the faint hum of the fridge filling the silence. I tossed my backpack on the couch and collapsed into a chair, staring at my phone. No messages. Part of me was relieved. Another part wondered if Sophie would reach out. As if on cue, around midnight, my screen lit up. It was her. Hey, Caleb, that was awkward this morning. Reunion's this Saturday. Everyone's hoping you'll come. I stared at the words, a knot forming in my stomach. The memories hit like a wave. Lazy college days exploring Denver's breweries, late-night talks about our futures, the way she'd laugh at my terrible jokes. We'd been inseparable, dreaming of a life together. But then Nathan swept in. Older, more polished, with a steady job and that effortless confidence. Sophie had chosen him, leaving me with a quiet goodbye that echoed for years. I'm sorry, but he's what I need right now. It wasn't dramatic, no yelling, no tears from me, but it hollowed me out. I'd spent months questioning myself. Was I not enough? Too ordinary? Friends urged me to date, to forget, but the scar lingered, making every potential relationship feel like a risk I wasn't ready for. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. Finally, I hit send. Maybe. Good to see you too. Short, non-committal. But sleep evaded me that night, my mind swirling with what-ifs. The next morning at the office, I couldn't focus. Code blurred on my screen as I debated skipping the reunion altogether. During a break, I found myself in the break room, pouring coffee with shaky hands. Olivia walked in, looking as composed as ever in her blazer and jeans, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She grabbed a mug and leaned against the counter. Morning, Caleb. You okay? You look like you didn't sleep a wink. I hesitated, then spilled it all. The text from Sophie, the flood of old pain, my dread of showing up alone and looking like the loser who never moved on. Olivia listened without interrupting, stirring her coffee slowly, her expression thoughtful. When I finished, she set her mug down. Sounds rough. If you need backup, I'm free this weekend. I can keep playing the girlfriend role, no strings attached. I blinked. You'd do that, for real? She shrugged with a smile. Why not? But you owe me. Dinner tonight, my treat. Or yours, actually. Call it payment for my acting skills. We met at a cozy Italian spot downtown, the kind with checkered tablecloths, candlelight flickering against brick walls, and the aroma of garlic and fresh bread wafting from the kitchen. Soft jazz played in the background as we settled into a corner booth by the window overlooking the bustling streets. It felt surreal, sitting across from my boss, no agendas or deadlines between us. Over appetizers, bruschetta dripping with tomatoes and basil, she asked gently, "Do you still love her?" Sophie, I mean. I poked at my food, considering. No, I don't think so. It's more the hurt. Feeling like I wasn't enough to hold on to someone. Growing up without a dad, my mom raised me alone after he left when I was 5. It made me question if I'm worth sticking around for. Sophie's choice just confirmed that fear. Olivia nodded, her eyes softening. I get it. More than you know. She paused, sipping her wine. I was married once, right out of college. He was ambitious, like me, but it fell apart after 5 years. I threw myself into work, climbing the ladder, thinking success would fill the void. But here I am at 35, divorced, no kids, wondering if I missed my shot at the best years. Everyone sees the confident boss, but nights alone? They're lonely. I push people away because I'm scared of getting hurt again. Her vulnerability caught me off guard. For the first time, I saw beyond the professional facade, the woman who'd built walls to protect herself, just like me. We talked for hours about her small-town upbringing in rural Colorado, dreams of travel she'd shelved for her career, the quiet regret of prioritizing promotions over personal life. I shared more about my mom, her endless shifts at the diner to keep us afloat, how I'd vowed never to be a burden. The conversation flowed effortlessly, laughter mixing with deeper confessions, the restaurant emptying around us. By the time we stepped out into the cool night air, it was late. We walked to her car, the city lights reflecting off the pavement. Thanks for tonight, I said. I needed that. She smiled, touching my arm lightly. Me too. See you Monday? Back home, I felt lighter, like a weight had shifted. Before bed, I texted her. Saturday, reunion. Want to come as my fake girlfriend? Her reply came quick. Only if it's a real invitation. See you then. I smiled at the screen, drifting off with a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, tomorrow didn't feel like just another repeat of yesterday. The day of the reunion arrived faster than I'd anticipated, a mix of nerves and reluctant excitement churning in my gut. Saturday morning in Denver was crisp and clear, the kind of weather that promised a perfect backdrop for old memories. Blue skies over the city skyline, a light breeze rustling the leaves in the parks. I stood in front of my mirror, fussing with my shirt collar for the 3rd time, trying to look put together, without seeming like I was trying too hard. Casual jeans, a button-up in navy blue, nothing flashy, but inside I was a wreck, replaying scenarios in my head. Awkward small talk with classmates I hadn't seen in years, the pitying glances if I showed up solo, and worst of all, facing Sophie and Nathan as the happy couple. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Picking you up in 10, ready for showtime? I smiled despite myself. She'd insisted on driving, turning our fake date into something that felt oddly real. When her car pulled up, a sleek black SUV with that new car shine, she stepped out looking effortless. A soft blue dress that hugged her figure just right, low heels and her hair loose in waves. No over-the-top glamour, but she radiated that quiet confidence that made heads turn. You clean up nice, she said with a wink as I slid into the passenger seat. Thanks, you look amazing. It wasn't flattery, it was true. The drive to the hotel venue downtown was short, filled with light chatter about work and the traffic, but underneath I could feel my anxiety building. The hotel was one of those mid-range spots with a grand ballroom, chandeliers sparkling overhead, round tables draped in white linens, and a buffet spread of finger foods and punch. Music from our college era played softly in the background, a nostalgic playlist of indie rock and pop hits that took me right back. As we walked in arm, heads turned. A few old classmates spotted me first, their faces lighting up with surprise. Caleb, man, it's been forever! Jake, my old dorm roommate, clapped me on the back, his eyes darting to Olivia. And who's this? I cleared my throat. This is Olivia, my girlfriend. Olivia, meet Jake. He's the guy who once convinced me to pull an all-nighter for a philosophy paper that turned out to be due the next week. She laughed, shaking his hand firmly. Nice to meet you, Jake. Caleb's stories about you are entertaining. The ice broke easily after that. We mingled through the crowd, about 30 people from our class, plus a few teachers. Olivia was a natural. She chatted with my former lab partner about Denver's tech scene, teased our old history prof about his infamous pop quizzes, and even shared a laugh with a group of girls over bad college fashion choices. When someone asked how we met, she spun a seamless tale. Work brought us together. He's on my team. Started with coffee breaks, turned into something more. She squeezed my hand under the table, and for a moment, it didn't feel like acting at all. The room buzzed with energy. People swapping stories about jobs, marriages, kids. I felt a strange sense of belonging, like I'd finally outgrown the awkward kid I'd been. But then the door opened and Sophie walked in with Nathan on her arm. She looked stunning in a red dress, her hair styled perfectly, but her smile seemed forced, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. Nathan beside her was as polished as ever. Tailored suit, easy grin, the picture of success. He shook hands like a politician, but there was a distance in his posture, like he was already thinking about his next meeting. The group welcomed them warmly, but I stayed seated, sipping my drink to steady my nerves. Olivia leaned in. You good? Yeah, I whispered. Just surreal. Midway through the evening, as the music picked up and people hit the dance floor, Sophie approached our table. Mind if I borrow Caleb for a minute? She asked, her voice light but her eyes pleading. Olivia nodded gracefully. Go ahead, I'll save your seat. I followed Sophie out to the balcony, the cool night air a relief from the stuffy room. Denver's lights twinkled below, the distant hum of traffic mixing with muffled laughter from inside. She leaned against the railing, fiddling with her necklace, a habit I remembered from our days together. It's good to see you, she started, her voice soft. Really? You too? I replied, keeping my tone even. How have you been? She sighed, her shoulders dropping. Not great, honestly. Nathan? He's not who I thought he was. Turns out he's been seeing someone else. Multiple someones. I found out a few months ago. It's been a mess. Fights, lies. I feel so stupid for leaving you like that. Her words hung in the air, and for a second, the old pain flared up. The rejection, the nights I'd spent wondering what I'd done wrong. But it didn't sting like it used to. I'm sorry you're going through that, I said genuinely. You deserve better. Tears welled in her eyes. Caleb, I messed up. Back then I thought Nathan was the safe choice, the stability, the future. But it was all surface. With you, it was real. Do you think, could we try again? I've missed you more than I realized. I paused, looking back through the glass doors. Inside, Olivia was laughing with a group, her head thrown back in genuine amusement. She caught my eye for a split second, and something clicked. A warmth, a certainty I'd never felt with Sophie. Sophie, I said gently, I'm flattered. But I've moved on. That chapter's closed for me. She nodded, wiping her eyes, a sad smile forming. I get it. She's lucky, Olivia. You two look happy. With that, she turned and slipped back inside, leaving me alone on the balcony. I took a deep breath, the city lights blurring as I processed it all. Relief washed over me, no more what-ifs, no more holding on to ghosts. When I returned to the table, Olivia stood up, pulling me into a quick hug. Everything all right? Better than all right, I murmured. As the final slow song started, a classic ballad from our college playlist, she held out her hand. Dance with me? We moved to the floor, her hand in mine, our steps syncing effortlessly. No one paid much attention, but in that moment it felt like the room faded. I leaned in, whispering, Thank you for everything. She smiled up at me. Tonight, I'm not your boss, Caleb, just me. After the reunion, something shifted between Olivia and me. Not dramatically, but in the quiet ways seasons change. The drive home that night was filled with easy silence, punctuated by her occasional laughter as we recapped the evening's highlights. Jake's terrible dance moves, the prof's endless stories. She dropped me off with a simple, "Good night, Caleb," but her hand lingered on mine just a second longer than necessary. I watched her taillights fade down the street, feeling lighter than I had in years. The old wounds from Sophie didn't vanish overnight, but rejecting her plea had closed a door I'd left cracked for too long. Monday morning at the office felt different. Whispers rippled through the cubicles as I walked in. Apparently, our performance at the reunion had sparked gossip. By lunch, the break room was buzzing. "Did you hear? Caleb and Olivia?" But no one seemed shocked in a bad way. If anything, there were knowing smiles and thumbs up from a few colleagues. Olivia handled it with her usual poise, calling a quick team meeting to address the elephant in the room. "Yes, we're seeing each other," she said matter-of-factly. "But work is work. Let's keep it professional." That shut down the rumors fast, and surprisingly, it made things easier for us. No more pretending. We started spending time together outside the office, easing into it like old friends rediscovering each other. Our first real outing was a spontaneous hike the following weekend. Denver's foothills were calling, with trails winding through pine forests and wildflower meadows under a vast blue sky. We packed sandwiches and water, driving out in her SUV with the windows down, classic rock playing low on the radio. The path was moderate, not too strenuous, but enough to get our hearts pumping. As we climbed, Olivia opened up more than she ever had at work. "I grew up in a tiny town in eastern Colorado," she said, pausing to catch her breath at a viewpoint overlooking the city sprawl. "Flatlands, endless horizons. My parents were farmers. Hardworking, but always struggling. I left for college determined to build something bigger, to never worry about money again. That's why I pushed so hard at work. But after my divorce, it all felt empty. He wanted kids. I wanted my career. We grew apart, and one day he just left. I threw myself into promotions, thinking success would fix the loneliness. Spoiler, it didn't." Her voice was steady, but I caught the vulnerability in her eyes, a flicker of regret she'd hidden behind that boss facade. I shared my own story as we continued walking, the crunch of gravel under our boots filling the pauses. "My dad bailed when I was 5. Mom worked 2 jobs, waitressing days, cleaning offices nights, just to keep the lights on. I grew up feeling like I had to prove I wasn't a burden. That's why Sophie's leaving hit so hard. It felt like confirmation. I'm not enough to make someone stay." Olivia stopped, turning to face me. "You're more than enough, Caleb. You've got a quiet strength, reliable, kind. Not everyone sees that, but I do." She reached out, brushing a stray leaf from my shoulder, her touch lingering. We sat on a boulder for lunch, sharing bites of turkey sandwiches and stories about lighter times, her disastrous first job interview, my college pranks. By the time we headed back, the sun dipping low, I felt a connection forming. Not forced, but natural. These outings became our routine. The next weekend, we picnicked by a lake just outside the city, spreading a blanket on the grassy shore with cheese, crackers, and a bottle of wine. We waded into the shallow water, skipping stones and laughing when I slipped on a rock. Olivia splashed me playfully, her dress hem getting wet, but she didn't care. "This is what I've been missing," she admitted as we dried off under the sun. "Fun without agendas. After my marriage ended, I built walls, focused on spreadsheets instead of people. But with you, it's easy." I nodded, feeling the same. "Me too. After Sophie, I shut down. Dates felt pointless, but talking to you, it's like I'm remembering how to open up." Back at work, the lines blurred in small ways. She'd bring me coffee on Monday mornings, setting it on my desk with a whispered, "Fuel for the week," from one friend to another. I'd tease her back during breaks. "What's my motivation for debugging this code?" She'd grin. "Seeing my smile when it's done." One rainy evening, I stayed late fixing a server glitch, the office empty except for the patter of drops on the windows. Olivia appeared with 2 steaming mugs of hot cocoa. "Thought you could use this," she said, handing one over. We sat in the dim light of my cubicle, rain streaking the glass outside. "Thanks," I said. "Long day?" She sighed, leaning against the desk. "Always, but I don't want to go home to an empty apartment tonight. Not after these weeks with you." I looked up, her eyes meeting mine. Soft, searching. Before I could respond, she stepped closer, wrapping her arms around me from behind in a gentle hug. "I don't want to pretend anymore, Caleb. What started as a favor, it's become real for me. If you feel the same, let's stop calling it fake and see where this goes, as friends who might be more. My heart raced, but it wasn't fear, it was certainty. I turned, pulling her into a proper embrace. I do. Let's try this for real. We held each other as the storm raged outside, the office feeling like our own little world. That night marked the beginning. No more roles, just us. A few weeks later, I took her to meet my mom. We drove to her small house on the edge of the city, where she greeted us with hugs and homemade lasagna. Over dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "She's wonderful, Caleb. I can see how she looks at you, like you're her whole world." She smiled, eyes misty. "My boy's finally loving again." I hugged her tight. "Yeah, Mom, I am." From that rainy evening in the office, Olivia and I dove headfirst into something real. No more pretending, no more tiptoeing around labels. We kept things professional at work, of course. She was still my boss, leading meetings with that same sharp focus, her decisions crisp and fair. But outside those walls, we became each other's safe haven. The office gossip died down quickly. People moved on to the next water cooler drama. And we settled into a rhythm that felt effortless, like we'd been building toward it all along. Our days blended into a comforting routine. Mornings often started with lazy weekends at her place, a cozy condo in a quieter part of Denver with big windows overlooking the parks. I'd wake to the smell of coffee brewing, Olivia in her robe, humming softly as she flipped pancakes or scrambled eggs. We'd eat on the balcony, wrapped in blankets against the morning chill, talking about nothing and everything, her latest project headaches, my ideas for a side-coding gig, or just silly debates over the best hiking trails in Colorado. "You're turning me into a morning person," she'd tease, her eyes sparkling over the rim of her mug. Who knew? Evenings were our unwind time. After long days, we'd meet at a local market, wandering the aisles hand in hand, picking out ingredients for dinner. I'd chop vegetables while she stirred sauces, the kitchen filling with the sizzle of garlic and onions. We weren't gourmet chefs, burnt edges and oversalted mishaps were common. But those meals felt special, shared over a bottle of wine at her small dining table. One night, as rain pattered against the windows again, she set down her fork and looked at me seriously. "You know, Caleb, I've spent years building walls. After my divorce, I convinced myself independence meant isolation. But with you, I don't feel alone anymore. You're not just filling a space, you're creating one we share." I reached across the table, lacing my fingers with hers. "Same here. After Sophie, I thought I'd always question if I was enough. But you make me feel seen, not for what I lack, but for who I am. We're healing each other, aren't we?" She nodded, a soft smile breaking through. "Yeah, and it's okay if it's messy sometimes." Messy it was, in the best way. We had our first real argument a few weeks in, over something trivial, like me forgetting to RSVP to a work event she was hosting. Voices raised, frustrations aired, but instead of storming off, we talked it out on her couch, ending with apologies and a long hug. "We're learning," she whispered. "And that's what friends do, grow together." From then on, we made a pact. No grudges, just open conversations. It strengthened us, turning potential cracks into bonds. We explored more of Colorado together, turning weekends into mini-adventures. A road trip to Utah's Red Rock Canyons where we hiked under scorching sun, sharing water bottles and stories of past heartbreaks. Picnics in national parks, lying on blankets under starry skies, her head on my shoulder as we traced constellations. "If I'd never agreed to that fake girlfriend gig," I said one night by a campfire, "I'd have missed all this." She laughed, poking the embers. "And I'd still be buried in reports every Friday night, afraid to let anyone in. You dared me to open up, Caleb. That's your gift." Meeting my family sealed it. We drove to Mom's house one sunny afternoon, the Rockies framing the horizon. Mom welcomed Olivia with open arms, serving her famous pot roast and probing gently about our story. "He's a good one," Mom told her in the kitchen while I pretended not to eavesdrop. "Quiet, but his heart's huge. I'm glad he found someone who sees that." Olivia beamed. "He's teaching me to see mine too." Later, as we drove back, Olivia turned to me at a red light. "Your mom's amazing. Makes me miss mine. She passed a few years ago, but today, It felt like family. It is, I said, squeezing her hand. You're part of it now. Our happiness wasn't flashy, no grand gestures or social media posts. It was in the small things. Her leaving notes in my lunch bag, me surprising her with flowers after a tough day. We fought less, laughed more, and slowly the scars from our pasts faded. Sophie texted once, apologizing again and wishing me well. I replied kindly, but it felt like closure, not lingering ache. One evening, as we watched the sunset from her balcony painting the Denver skyline in oranges and pinks, I pulled her close. Remember when I asked you to pretend? Best decision I ever made. She nestled against me. No pretending needed anymore. This is us. Real, messy, happy. And in that moment, wrapped in her warmth, I knew we'd built something lasting. No more faking it. Just two people who'd found their way to each other, ready to face whatever came next.